On March 23rd, 2026, a family in Nantan City, Kyoto Prefecture, Japan, found themselves in a nightmare situation. Their 11-year-old son, Yuki Adachi, hadn't come home from school. In fact, he hadn't shown up to start with. The school contacted Yuki's mother to report his absence at around 11:50 a.m. A search got underway almost immediately afterwards. Family, neighbors, and police fanned out across roads, schools, friends' houses, nearby villages, and even the surrounding mountains. It would be days before they discovered any sign of him. One of his relatives spotted something in the bushes. It wasn't Yuki. It was his bright yellow school bag, sitting in the brush on a mountainside about 3 kilometers northwest of his elementary school. The area had gotten rain the day before, so everything around it was soaked. The soil, the trees, the grass. But the backpack was completely dry. Only the part resting on the ground had any moisture on it. Someone had placed it there recently. But why? And where was the boy? This is the story of Yuki Adachi. On April 13th, 2026, 3 weeks after Yuki Adachi disappeared, a body was discovered in a forested area in Sonobe town. A child wearing a sweatshirt with the number 84, a dark blue fleece, and beige pants. No shoes, no ID. Investigators didn't yet know who the child was. But somewhere in Nantan, a family that had spent weeks searching and hoping for the safe return of their child was about to get a call they had prayed wouldn't come. But before we discuss what happened, let's learn more about the boy at the center of all this. Yuki Adachi was a regular kid growing up in a small part of Kyoto Prefecture. By all accounts, he was bright, sociable, and well-liked. He had a wide smile and the kind of energy that made him fun to be around. His family had a large property, and the backyard became his private playground, where he could enjoy nature and explore everything that made him curious. He liked picking chestnuts with his neighbor, and they often shared their haul together in the backyard. He lived with his mother and grandmother. His mom was warm and hardworking, and his grandmother doted on him and kept him well fed. Yuki's mother and father were married, but their relationship didn't last for too long. The two divorced, and Yuki's mother, who had been working as a hairdresser in Tokyo, decided to move back to her hometown with Yuki. A few years before his disappearance, Yuki's mother landed a job at a factory that manufactured electrical machinery and equipment. It was at that factory where Yuki's mother met a man named Yuki Yamamoto. The two got along well at work, eating lunch together, talking during breaks, and rumors started circulating that they were more than just colleagues. Yuki Yamamoto had a wife and a son at home, so many of their coworkers likely brushed it off as just talk. But the two developed very real feelings for each other, and Yuki Yamamoto left his wife for Yuki Adachi's mother. The two married in December 2025, and in an unusual move, Yuki Yamamoto decided to adopt his new wife's name, meaning he also became Yuki Adachi. So to avoid confusion, I'll refer the two as Yuki Jr. and Yuki Sr. going forward. Whatever affection Yuki Sr. felt for Yuki Jr.'s mother didn't seem to carry over to his relationship with Yuki Jr. One local resident spoke to local media saying, "I saw Yuki's father yelling at him outside the house several times." It appears that Yuki Jr.'s feelings for his stepfather weren't much warmer. Classmates told their parents that Yuki Jr. complained about him, referring to Yuki Sr. as the old guy rather than anything like dad. However, the pair had only been living together for a few months. Perhaps it was growing pains. On the morning of March 23rd, Yuki Jr. had breakfast with his family and then headed to school with Yuki Sr., a departure from his usual routine of taking the bus on his own. That day was the graduation ceremony for the school's 6th graders, with Yuki Jr.'s 5th grade class attending as representatives. However, when teachers went through the list of attendees, Yuki Jr. was nowhere to be found. They pulled up the school CCTV footage and couldn't find evidence of him anywhere on the premises. Because the ceremony was about to begin, they held off on calling his mother. By around 11:50 a.m., he still hadn't turned up, and they finally made the call. His mother was blindsided. Yuki Sr. called around, telling people his stepson was missing. The search started immediately. Neighbors, relatives, and the police all got involved. They checked the school, his friends' homes, bus stops he regularly used, but nothing. No one had seen him anywhere. The family put up posters and asked local businesses to display them. The school principal issued a public apology for the oversight and expressed regret, noting that they had spoken with Yuki Jr.'s parents but couldn't offer any further information. As days went by with no news, the search expanded outward. On the morning of March 29th, in a mountain area in Sonobe town, almost 3 kilometers northwest of the school, a relative spotted Yuki's backpack. But as I told you, something about the discovery didn't add up. Not only was the backpack dry, despite the rainfall the previous day, but it was also in an area that had already been searched more than once. The evidence didn't point to Yuki Jr. placing it there. The terrain leading to that spot was rough enough that it was unlikely that an 11-year-old boy could have reached there on his own. And despite the area generally having people passing through, not a single person reported having seen Yuki Jr. anywhere that day. Someone else had put it there deliberately. The search continued. On April 3rd, 11 days after he went missing, police expanded their search to the neighboring town of Kyotamba, deploying 50 people to sweep vacant houses, mountain areas, and nearby pond close to where the backpack was found. Drones were brought in to cover terrain that was too difficult for searchers to reach on foot. By April 6, investigators had spoken to roughly 1,000 people and received around 210 tips, but there was still no sign of Yuki Jr. That same evening, the school held a briefing for the parents of Yuki Jr.'s classmates, partly to address concerns about the children being questioned by police and the stress that was being put on them. School resumed on April 9th, marking the start of the new academic year. Yuki Jr. should have been walking in as a 6th grader, but he still hadn't been found. Search efforts remained focused on the mountain area. Then, on April 12, a pair of black sneakers, believed to be Yuki Jr.'s, turned up in the mountains a few kilometers southwest of the school. Again, it was a location that had already been searched. The fact that evidence kept appearing in previously cleared areas led investigators to think that whoever was responsible was deliberately placing these items in different locations to throw them off the scent. It was now widely believed that Yuki Jr. had been abducted, and the police started stationing officers near the school out of concern that other children could be at risk. In the meantime, Yuki Jr.'s family kept up their own search efforts, handing out hundreds of flyers, asking anyone who might have information as to the child's whereabouts. Whatever tension may have existed between the two, Yuki Sr. was out there helping, visibly distressed, doing everything a worried parent would do to bring their lost child home. Then, at 4:45 p.m. on April 13th, someone found the body of a child in a forested area of Sonobe town. The child had no shoes, no ID. He was facing down, wearing the sweatshirt with a number 84, a dark blue fleece, and beige pants. It was the result that no one had wanted. Yuki Jr. had finally been found. Based on the level of decomposition, the body appeared to have been there for some time. the police canvassed the area and spoke to the landowner near the site, an elderly man who was genuinely shocked to learn that a decomposing body had been found so close to his land. He said he hadn't noticed any strange smells, and he'd been out there just 2 days earlier picking vegetables. It didn't seem to be the kind of thing that he could have missed. He'd been within 5 meters of where the body was eventually found. So police concluded that the body had been stored somewhere else and moved to that location relatively recently. On April 15th, Kyoto Prefectural Police conducted a search of Yuki Jr.'s home. They checked everything. Given the size of the house and its grounds, it took them 10 hours to get through it all. Family members were brought in for questioning. The next day, at 12:32 a.m. on April 16th, the police came back to the family home and arrested Yuki Sr. on suspicion of corpse abandonment. He told them he was guilty. The news hit hard for anyone who had been following the case. People remembered seeing Yuki Sr. out there distributing flyers, looking like a man desperate to find his missing stepson. The whole time people were out searching, holding on to hope, he knew exactly where Yuki Jr. was. Based on what investigators have pieced together so far, this is what happened. On the morning of March 23rd, Yuki Sr. drove past Yuki Jr.'s school, appearing briefly on the school security camera, and then continued to a different location in Nantan, where he strangled Yuki Jr. He had told police, even before the formal arrest, that he had killed his stepson, an action that he claimed to have taken impulsively. He left the body at that initial location, and over the days and weeks that followed, he moved it multiple times to multiple places. Police suspect that one of those places was a public restroom at the Rurikei tourist area, which they inspected days after the arrest. To the police, Yuki Sr.'s involvement in Yuki Jr.'s disappearance was not a surprise. While the public-facing search was being conducted by the police and volunteers, an investigation into Yuki Sr. was running behind the scenes. While the family had been cooperating in the missing persons case, Yuki Sr. had handed over the dash cam from his car. Investigators had also been analyzing his phone location data, possibly through carrier records. They had been analyzing it for days, focusing searches in an area that Yuki Sr. was believed to have stopped. On April 12th, it led them to the shoes. On April 13th, it led them to Yuki Jr.'s body. Then on April 17th, after the formal arrest, police seized Yuki Sr.'s car as evidence and examined the dash cam recording more closely. Portions of the footage had been deleted. The car's tires were found to have mud on them, consistent with having been driven into off-road terrain. Another detail came to light during the investigation. The calls Yuki Sr. made on the morning of March 23rd, telling people his stepson was missing, had been made before the school had called anyone. The mother got the call at 11:50 a.m. Yuki Sr.'s outreach started earlier. The information hadn't officially reached him, but he was already on the phone, telling people his stepson had disappeared. Even with all of this information, a lot remains unknown. The cause of death hasn't been officially confirmed. The autopsy didn't find any stab wounds or cuts. And beyond that, the official cause is listed as undetermined. His pre-indictment detention ran until May 6. On that day, Kyoto police re-arrested him, this time on suspicion of murder. The corpse abandonment charge was no longer the headline. Investigators now believe the killing took place in a public restroom in a parking lot, roughly 2 kilometers from the family home, on the morning of March 23rd. Yuki Sr. had told police he strangled Yuki Jr. with his hands. The case is ongoing, and as of the time of this upload, no trial date has been set. The biggest question, of course, is why he did this. Why would Yuki Sr. kill his own stepson? As for the motive, Yuki Sr. told investigators that while he was driving Yuki Jr. towards school that morning, the boy said to him, "You're not my real father." He said those words made him snap and that the killing was impulsive. That's his explanation. But Kyoto police weren't fully satisfied with it. A senior prefectural police official described the stated motive as a disproportionate leap in logic to explain the murder, and said they believe a combination of factors likely contributed to what happened that day. To learn more, a Japanese news program, Abema Teki News Show, reached out to the parents of some of Yuki Jr.'s classmates. What came back was not a motive, but a single sentence that reframed a lot of what people thought they knew about this family. Yuki Jr. was beaten by his father in front of his friends. When one of those friends tried to ask Yuki Jr. about what was going on at home, Yuki Jr. shut the conversation down, saying, "Don't ask about stuff at my house." He was also a frequent visitor to the school nurse's office, and there were times his friends noticed he wasn't doing well physically. They wanted to help, but they were just children themselves. There wasn't much they could do. Multiple parents came forward with similar accounts, though Kyoto Prefectural Police stated that no domestic abuse complaints had ever been formally filed. Whatever information comes to light in the coming days and weeks, Yuki Jr.'s mother has been left to process both the loss of her son and the betrayal perpetrated by the man she trusted most. For 3 weeks, Yuki Sr. moved his stepson's body to different locations, and in that same period, he stood beside Yuki Jr.'s mother as she handed out flyers. He let 1,000 people search for Yuki Jr. while he knew exactly where the boy was, because he had put him there. And he did all of it while Yuki Jr.'s mother was holding on to the hope that her son would come home. Yuki Jr. was a bright, sociable kid who had a wide smile and the kind of energy people remembered. He had a mother and a grandmother who loved him, friends who liked him, and neighbors who knew him by name. None of that protected him from the man who had become his stepfather 3 months earlier. And we still have no idea why. That is all for today. Thanks for watching.